Tomorrow, November the 20th, 1982, I'll take you out and show you the places that we went into business in Los Angeles. We had a big factory, the largest on the West Coast for woodwork products up in Oakland, and distributing points all over the United States, but we had a lot of problems in trying to get into business in Los Angeles. There was so much enmity between Los Angeles and San Francisco that we had to buy a going business in Culver City and use a different name from the one we had up north. We called the one down here the California Cabinet Company. So in 1928, we bought a company that had just gone broke in Culver City, right on the borderline. And we bought it in 1928, and my father and I had that separately from the big business up in Oakland. So I came down here quite a bit, and my father did, and my brother spent a lot of time. Between the three of us, we always had somebody in Los Angeles. So we had that place until about 1934. And then the property was a whole block. It was just inside the city limit of Culver City that the Los Angeles police had let gambling continue, and a group of people wanted to build a highlight court there where people from Los Angeles could come. So we sold it and got a good price. Well, at the same time, the large Southwest Engineering that manufactured mining equipment called Sweco were about a mile away and a much bigger building. So we made a deal, and we bought their building, and then they moved their place to the present one they have downtown on Santa Fe Avenue. So we kept some of the mining personnel that had worked for Sweco, and we used them a little bit in our business, which was construction work and woodwork and a little bit of mining on the side. So that went on until World War II came, and my brother went in the Navy, I went in the Army, and my father decided he couldn't carry on alone, and so he liquidated the business in 1942. Now tomorrow morning we'll go out and we'll take pictures of these places. Shut it off. This is the property that we bought in 1928. It was called the Cowan Cabinet Company. That we have literature showing that brick building is a beautiful building. On both sides of it, where there are now new buildings, was all our old buildings where we did more manufacturing. We have that entire block. In the earthquake about 1934, the roof almost caved in. And my father was down here, and it scared him so much we decided we'd sell it and find a different place. So I'll take you down to that different place now. Venice Boulevard, Culver City. You'll find it on my dog tags and all my old mailing addresses. The building used to be brick, but in the last 30 years they've plastered over a white coat of stucco, so it looks so different I had difficulty in finding it. Now, right across the street used to be a railroad station. They've run Culver Boulevard through and torn down the railroad station. So it's very difficult to find my old location. Everything has changed so much. In 1939, I spent off and on 6 months in this building, and my car parked right here was hit 4 times while parked. That's where the old railroad station was. Now foot boulevard runs clear through. Is one block behind 9035 Venice Boulevard, 9200 Durango. In 1939, business conditions were very bad, yet we needed more room. I bought this building with the one behind it for $6,000 from the bank with a 10% down payment. My father didn't like the idea of me investing that much money in something we didn't need. But 2 years later, we sold it for $9,000. So conditions were awfully bad at that time. The Culver Hotel, the big red brick building. When I got called into the Army in May 1940, this thing was up for sale by the bank on the same sale where I bought the other building. They wanted $90,000 for that 100-room hotel that the mezzanine floor used to be the big gambling resort for all the people that worked in MGM studios. The gambling equipment was still on the floor, but it hadn't been used since 1938. So all I had to do was put up $9,000, but I was in the Army and wasn't feeling too well, and he didn't want to try to manage the thing, and it was a losing proposition. Even with only a $9,000 down payment, $90,000. So I didn't buy it. Well, another 6 months they still hadn't sold it, so John Wayne bought it for $60,000 with $6,000 down. And then after the war, he took a tax loss. He got $250,000 credit for giving it away to charity. Took a tax loss because he was making a big income at the time. So up and down. Now originally all of this property sold at 10 times what you could have bought them for in 1940. At 4060 Madison Avenue in Culver City. This is a 4-unit apartment that I built in 1939 and couldn't sell it for $10,000. I was getting $35 a month rent for the 2 one-bedroom apartments in front and $45 for the 2-bedroom apartments in the back. So I loved the place. It's right close to downtown, and I didn't want to sell it. But I had 3 others like this around town when I went in the Army. So my father wrote me when I was in Burma that he could get $14,000 for it, and if I didn't, he was going to make the deal unless I stopped him. Well, I wrote him a letter, and of course I was out in the field. He probably didn't get it for months. And 6 months later, in the middle of China, I got a check for $14,000. The damn thing was sold, and I didn't want it sold. When I got out of the Army, I asked the real estate agent what it was worth now, and he said $30,000. I estimate today it's worth $100,000. And I left 4 things like this unsold when I went in the Army. The other 3 that were sold quickly, I didn't make more than $1,000 a piece on them. So you've got to realize that conditions get good and they get bad, and they were going to have bad ones again one of these days. You're now on San Vicente Boulevard, where it runs into Ocean in Santa Monica. That is your Pacific Ocean, Ocean I bought a lot right here on the right, and Mr. Carter bought the other lot. And so we joined together and we built these 2 together. Now that big tall high-rise apartment was not there. We got an ocean view from these houses. And so they were completed in 1949, so I lived in one until about off and on for a few months, and then went back in the Army for the Korean War. But there's 14 units there, and I drew the plans for it, and it took about 6 or 8 months to build them. I still have these places. That's enough. This building, 726 Santa Monica Boulevard, is the Gandy building. Bob Gandy was a roommate of mine at Stanford, and after World War II, when I came down to this area to do some building, which we've been showing you, that was my mailing address in my office for 10, 15 years. In the upstairs part of it, Bob Gandy's older brother, Dick, was a lawyer. And we were over in Las Vegas in 1949 trying to organize the Bank of Las Vegas. Dick Gandy was a bank attorney. And we worked out a deal on a Sunday. Jerry Block was to be a director. And Dick walked into his office right there on Monday morning, and a customer standing in his office stood up and shot him and killed him. He had divorced the man from his wife the year before, and the guy was nuts. So that ended my banking venture in Las Vegas. But Bob Gandy now is quite ill and old and infirm, and that building now is the Gandy Trust Building.